So if you were dropped into a room full of complete strangers, literally anywhere on Earth, there's really only one guaranteed survival tool to break the ice, and it isn't talking about the weather.
Oh, definitely not the...
Right, and it's not asking people what they do for a living either. It's what it's a screen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
the moment you ask a group of strangers, like, hey, have you seen any good movies lately?
Yep.
The entire temperature of the room just changes. You can see shoulders drop, people lean in. It's this instant universal bridge between completely different cultures.
It really is. Movies are just the ultimate shortcut to connecting with people. But, bridging that gap in a new language, specifically if someone is navigating English as a beginner or even an intermediate learner, that is incredibly difficult.
Oh, for sure. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, because trying to express these complex, deeply felt emotional reactions to a film using beginner vocabulary is it's like trying to paint a sunset using only a primary color paint by numbers kit. You have all these feelings, but the linguistic tools just aren't there yet.
And that right there is the core frustration for any language learner. I mean, your brain processes this profound emotional reaction to a piece of art, but your mouth can only manage to output, oh, it was good, or it was bad.
Which just totally flattens the whole human experience.
Exactly. You lose all the nuance.
Well, that is exactly what we're extracting from our sources today for this deep dive. We're looking at a really fantastic, beginner-friendly guide on the exact linguistic tools you need to translate those complex reactions into natural English.
It's a great set of sources,
Yeah.
really practical stuff.
Yeah, so we're going to explore how to move past those basic dictionary genres first. Then we'll look at a really fascinating case study involving the movie Titanic to learn how to, navigate social disagreements. And finally, we're going to put you, the listener, through a physical language training technique called shadowing.
I love that we're doing the shadowing part. It's a very practical progression
Yeah.
because, I mean, before anyone can debate the intricate plot holes of a cinematic masterpiece, they need the foundational tools to just articulate their basic preferences.
Right, you got to start with the basics.
Yeah, and the sources do a brilliant job of showing why that traditional textbook approach to teaching movie genres completely fails in the real world.
Let's start right there, actually, with those base categories, because textbooks will give you that standard list to memorize, right? Action, romance, comedy, horror, adventure, fantasy, animation, documentary, drama.
Just a dry list of nouns.
Exactly. But simply memorizing the word documentary doesn't actually help you in a real conversation. The sources argue that you really have to connect the vocabulary to a personal experience.
Well, yeah, because that is the only way the human brain actually retains new language. Rote memorization just lacks any semantic anchor. It just doesn't stick.
It goes right in one ear and out the other.
Right. So when we look at the speakers in our source material, they demonstrate this beautifully when they're describing their all-time favorite films. Like one of the speakers chooses The Shawshank Redemption.
Great movie.
Ugh, incredible movie. But he doesn't just categorize it by saying, oh, it's a drama. He anchors it to an internal state. He says he loves it because it makes him feel hopeful.
Ah, I love that. And the other speaker chooses the Pixar film Inside Out, and she just bypasses that dry animation label entirely. She doesn't even use it.
Which is so smart, yeah.
Yeah, she says it's her favorite because it's fun, it's colorful, and meaningful. And she even openly admits she is basically a walking emotion, which is hilarious.
Fascinating here is that shift in focus is the actual key to fluency. The sources are encouraging learners to describe films by their impact rather than their structural category.
So talking about the effect it has on you.
Exactly. Learning to say, I enjoy movies that make me think, or I like movies that make me feel something. It transforms a basic vocabulary exercise into a genuine expression of your identity. You're actually giving the listener a piece of yourself, not just reciting a media catalog.
It totally turns the question of what's your favorite movie into a window into someone's personality. Because it's really about the emotional state that person is actively chasing in their free time.
Yes.
Which actually brings up a really specific phenomenon the sources spend time on, and that's the weekend comfort movie. Because we all have one.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
The psychology behind the comfort movie is fascinating, especially in the context of language learning. Comfort movies are generally described as these light, warm, feel-good films that just help you relax.
Right, like romantic comedies are the quintessential example there.
But the sources highlight a great contrast here.
Yeah.
Because while one person uses a light rom-com to unwind, another person might choose, like, explosive superhero movies as their ultimate comfort watch.
Wait, really? Superhero movies for relaxing?
Yeah. And the reasoning provided in the sources is that watching superhero movies makes them suddenly feel stronger. They're using the film to borrow a feeling of resilience.
Oh, wow. That makes total sense. I never thought about it like that.
And notice the linguistic mechanism happening there. The speaker is attaching a highly personal, empowering reaction to a very commercial genre. If you're learning a language, attaching your personal reaction to the vocabulary just instantly lowers your cognitive load.
Because it's relevant to you.
Right. When someone asks what kind of movies you like, saying, "I'm not a fan of horror because it makes me scream," is incredibly memorable for your brain because it's tied to a visceral physical reaction.
So if someone listening right now is trying to, build their conversational toolkit, the first step is to just stop making lists of genres and start making lists of how those genres physically or emotionally affect them.
That's step one. Absolutely.
But once you establish what you like, you hit the next major hurdle. You have to actually express an opinion about a specific film.
And expressing an opinion is where the social stakes suddenly get much, much higher. Because you're no longer just sharing personal preferences, right? You're evaluating a shared cultural artifact.
Yeah, it can be a total conversational minefield. Like, you need to know how to share your thoughts without accidentally insulting the host of the dinner party who just enthusiastically recommended the film to you.
Which is the worst feeling.
So awkward. So to teach this tightrope walk, the sources use what might be the ultimate universal case study, and that is the classic 1997 film Titanic.
Titanic is just the perfect pedagogical tool here because it has almost absolute global cultural penetration. I mean, you would be hard-pressed to find a demographic that doesn't have at least a passing familiarity with.
Everyone knows Jack and Rose.
Exactly. And the sources use it to build descriptive vocabulary from the ground up. So first, you have the objective facts. It's a romantic drama, it's based on a true story, and it has a highly emotional ending.
Spoiler alert for a 30-year-old movie.
Right, I think we're past the statute of limitations there. And then they move to character descriptions, like Jack is brave, Rose is strong.
And then we get to the subjective experience, which is the fun part. There's this anecdote from the sources that perfectly illustrates how to use storytelling to express an opinion. So the male speaker, his name is Jake, he confesses that he cried like a baby watching Titanic.
Which is so relatable.
But the brilliant part is his delivery. He admits that he actually pretended he didn't cry at the time.
Structurally, that is just a fantastic use of these simple past tense to create comedic tension, like, I pretended I didn't cry, but I did. It's relatable, it's highly human, and it strips away that formality that often makes second language speakers sound sort of robotic.
Yeah, he's just being real, but they don't stop at just sharing feelings. They dive into the great debate of modern cinema, the most important question ever asked about a movie.
Oh boy, here we go.
Did Jack have enough space on that floating wooden door at the end of the film?
The notorious door debate. A true test of conversational endurance.
Jake absolutely insists there was space on the door for both Jack and Rose. And to defend his point, he deploys this incredible English idiom. He says, "I will die on this hill."
I love that they included that. Teaching an idiom like, I will die on this hill, in the context of a low-stakes movie debate is a masterful stroke by the sources.
Because it's so dramatic, right?
Very dramatic. That phrase originates from actual military strategy, like holding a geographic position at all costs. But in modern pop culture, it's morphed to mean you are willing to fiercely defend a subjective opinion, usually a really trivial one, even if everyone else thinks you're completely wrong.
It's just so much more colorful than saying, I strongly agree with my own point. It immediately signals to the native speaker that you are, like, culturally plugged in. It shows you understand the playful nature of the debate.
And it acts as a fluency shortcut. Idioms demonstrate cultural competence, which often bridges the gap, even if your underlying grammar isn't totally perfect.
Okay, so we have these tools for enthusiastic agreement and, playful debate. If we loved a movie, the sources give us phrases like, the acting was incredible, it kept me interested the whole time, or the ultimate compliment, I'd watch it again.
Good, solid phrases.
But wait, I have to challenge this framework a little bit, because if I just deploy positive phrases for everything, I lose all my authenticity. What if I watch a movie someone highly recommended and I think it is absolute garbage?
That happens a lot.
Right. So how do learners navigate the complex social grace of disliking a movie without destroying the relationship with the person who loved it?
Well, that is arguably the most advanced social skill in any language, the sociolinguistics of saving face. Because you rarely want to use aggressive, definitive words like terrible or hated. As the sources note, you aren't trying to start a war in a YouTube comment section. You are trying to maintain a human connection.
So what do you do instead?
To do that, the sources introduce this linguistic mechanism of polite deflection.
Okay, show me how that works in practice, because my instinct is honestly just to say, that was boring.
Well, if you say the movie was boring, you're making an objective claim about the art. You're stating it as a universal fact, which kind of implies that anyone who liked it, including your friend, has terrible taste.
Oh, yeah, I see that. That is kind of rude.
Right, so instead, the sources suggest saying, it was a bit slow for me.
Ah. For me, those two words do a lot of heavy lifting.
They do. They entirely change the trajectory of the sentence. Adding "for me" shifts the statement from an objective critique of the film to a subjective report of your personal experience.
It's like you're taking the blame.
Exactly. You aren't saying the movie's inherently bad. You're simply stating that your specific brain found the pacing slow. It just immediately de-escalates any defensiveness in the listener.
That is an incredibly subtle but powerful tool. So if a movie is completely bizarre and incomprehensible, I don't say, this makes no sense and it's stupid. I use the phrases from the source, like, I didn't connect with the story, or it wasn't my favorite.
Or you could use the highly diplomatic, I prefer other genres. You're critiquing your own relationship to the film, not attacking the person who suggested it. It keeps that conversational bridge intact while still allowing you to be honest about your tastes.
Okay, so we have this arsenal of diplomatic phrases to save dinner parties. We know how to shift from objective to subjective, but there is a massive canyon between knowing the phrase, it was a bit slow for me, in your head, and your mouth physically cooperating when you try to say it out loud in real time at a normal conversational speed.
Oh, huge difference. You're identifying the gap between passive vocabulary and active vocabulary there. They rely on completely different neurological processes.
Like reading versus speaking.
Exactly. Comprehending a sentence happens in one part of the brain, but motor planning, the sequence of muscle movements in your tongue, lips, and jaw to produce that sentence, is an entirely separate physical task.
Okay, let's unpack this, because this is exactly why the sources dedicate the final portion of their material to a physical training method. It's this technique called shadowing.
A fantastic exercise.
Yeah, and based on the sources, shadowing is basically the act of listening to someone speak English and copying them out loud at the exact same time, or maybe just a split second after. You kind of act as an audio echo.
And the reason shadowing is so highly regarded in language acquisition is that it forces the motor cortex to work in tandem with auditory processing. When you shadow, you bypass the analytical part of your brain.
You just stop overthinking it.
You stop analyzing grammar, and you just start absorbing the rhythm, the intonation, and the natural pauses of the language.
It teaches you to speak in chunks rather than individual words, right? Like, instead of painstakingly assembling a sentence like, what do you want to do? Shadowing trains your mouth to handle the musical, condensed flow of what I want to.
Yes. Furthermore, it suppresses the panic reflex. When you're speaking a new language, the fear of making a mistake often paralyzes you. But with shadowing, the native audio track doesn't stop to wait for you.
You got to keep up.
Right. You do not have time to pause, overthink your conjugation, and panic. You are forced to keep moving forward, which builds incredible resilience and verbal agility.
There's actually a hilarious anecdote from the sources that proves how physical and immersive this gets. So the female speaker shares a story about practicing her shadowing technique while sitting in a very quiet, peaceful cafe.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she had her earphones in, listening to a fast-paced action movie, and she was trying to echo the dialogue. And without realizing how loud she was projecting, she suddenly shouted, "Let's go, we don't have much time," right in the middle of the coffee shop.
Prompting everyone in the cafe to stare at her as if she were an undercover agent about to initiate a tactical extraction.
I mean, it is deeply embarrassing, but it highlights the reality of the technique. You have to physically move your voice. Trying to express complex opinions in English by only reading vocabulary lists is, honestly, it's like trying to learn how to sing your favorite song by sitting in silence and staring at the sheet music.
It doesn't work.
You don't learn a song that way. You learn it by getting in your car, turning up the radio, and singing along at the top of your lungs until the muscles in your throat match the rhythm of the singer.
That is the exact mechanism. You are training muscle memory. And to fully grasp how that friction feels, we are going to demonstrate this methodology right now.
Yes, let's do it.
Even if you are a fluent English speaker listening to this, stepping into the shoes of the learner by trying this exercise really illuminates how demanding the rhythm of language actually is.
We are turning this deep dive into an interactive practice session. So wherever you are right now, unless you're in a quiet library, in which case maybe just vividly imagine doing this, we want you to experience this mechanical friction.
Don't get yourself kicked out of the cafe.
Right. So I'm going to say 3 specific beginner-level phrases pulled directly from the source material. These sentences look incredibly simple on paper, but your goal is to match the exact pacing and intonation. After each phrase, we're going to leave a strict 3-second pause. In that window, your job is to echo the phrase out loud. Ready?
And remember, do not overthink the words. Focus entirely on the melody and the timing.
Okay, here we go. Phrase 1. I am learning English every day. Go ahead and say it.
Take about 3 seconds here. Just say it to the room.
Right, just feel how it sounds. Let's do the next one. Phrase 2. I am not perfect, but I am improving. Your turn.
The transition between perfect and but is where the mouth usually stumbles.
Yeah.
Just push through it.
Exactly. Okay, let's try the final phrase. Phrase 3. Shadowing helps me speak confidently. Try it out.
Keep that rhythm going.
So if you just spoke out loud to your phone or your car stereo right there, we commend you.
Absolutely. And the sources note that it is entirely normal if you felt a little silly doing that, or if you felt like a confused robot trying to process audio files.
That confused robot feeling is so accurate, it's like your brain is buffering.
It really is. But that feeling of being a confused robot isn't a sign of failure. It is the literal sensation of your neuroplasticity at work.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, it's the friction of your speaking muscles adapting to new motor patterns. Every single time you push through that awkward robotic sensation, your tongue becomes more flexible, the cognitive load decreases, and your confidence in real-world conversations just naturally grows.
So let's pull all of these threads together. What does this toolkit actually look like in practice? We started by dismantling that textbook approach to movies, learning to categorize films, not by their dictionary genre, but by how they manipulate our internal emotional states, like the psychological relief of a weekend comfort movie.
We then explored the sociolinguistics of sharing opinions, using Titanic to understand how a simple idiom like, I will die on this hill, can signal deep cultural fluency.
It's a very crucial skill.
And we analyze the self-preservation tactic of shifting from objective criticism to subjective experience by simply adding the words, for me, to politely deflect disagreements.
And finally, we looked at the neurological bridge between knowing those phrases and actually producing them, experiencing the mechanical friction of the shadowing technique, emulating the rhythm until the words become pure muscle memory.
And through all of this mechanical analysis, we really have to remember the primary objective here. The goal of learning this specific vocabulary isn't to become some professional film critic with flawless grammatical syntax.
No, not at all.
The goal is human connection.
It brings us right back to that opening scenario, the room full of strangers. You don't need perfect fluency to break the ice. You just need enough tools to translate your internal world into an external bridge. You need the willingness to ask someone else what makes them feel hopeful or resilient or relaxed, and the vocabulary to understand their answer.
Which actually leads to a rather provocative concept to leave you with today. It taps into the idea of linguistic relativity, which is the theory that the language we use actively shapes how we perceive the world.
Oh, I love this theory.
Yeah, so if that's true, does learning the English vocabulary to describe your feelings about a movie actually change the way your brain stores the memory of that film?
That is a wild thought. So you aren't just learning words, you're creating entirely new emotional categories.
Exactly. Think about it. The next time you watch a favorite scene, try describing it in English in your head. Try attaching new linguistic anchors, like nostalgic, overwhelmed, or comforting, to the images as they happen.
Oh.
You might just discover an entirely new psychological perspective on a story you already thought you knew, simply because you were forcing your brain to process it through a completely new linguistic lens.
A new language literally giving you a new way to see your favorite stories. That's incredible. So the next time you find yourself in that room full of strangers, you know what to do. Skip the small talk about the weather, ask them to defend their ultimate comfort movie, and just see where the conversation takes you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep practicing, keep talking, and we'll catch you next time.